Hey guys, it's just going to be a short video of the Zefra engine rundown. This is pre-Draco Slayers from Astro Duel, so I'll be keeping it a bit short since a bit will be changing, but most of this will still be relevant in the future as well. In this video I won't be going over the control variant that runs Zefra Path. There is good content on that on YouTube, but it's just not as good this meta. I also won't be going over the Auroradon variant because that version is simply not optimal. It introduces another massive choke point that's very telegraphed. Your entire build tunnel visions into going into it, so you have less options if interrupted. You also just lose to Imperm on Auroradon, which kind of sucks. You can't play through Maxi at all because they draw like 50 cards. Not enough to deck them out, but like probably like 17 cards or something, so pretty terrible. You have no backup plan. In the versions without, like in the last video I uploaded, you can see me put up a decent enough board under Maxi and then win those games as well. And another big issue is all the bricks you're running. Like, you don't want to see any of these cards in your hand, and you're only running these in the Auroradon variants, either as a payoff or an engine requirement. First, Zefra engine, you should actually know what these do if you want to play the deck. Basically, all of them search for Zefrath, which becomes usually your high scale. It can also be a low scale in a pinch, but you'd want to send Zefranio, and that will get you counter trap access. You also have the Teller Knight Zefras, which are level 4 bodies and can help you chain block and pop cards. And you have Zefraxi, which can also chain block and turn stuff into a tuner, but this comes up less often unless you're running Croco Dragon. The DDD engine, kind of nutty. Kepler is your best normal summon in the deck by far in most builds. It'll search you the Gate spell, which will then either search you Lamia, which can go into Beyond the Pendulum or into Denglong, or what is this, like Vice King Requiem, hell if I know what it's called. Basically this scales itself to summon itself out, and then you just overlay into Machinex. That gives you a pop, it gives you a line for Zeus, and you can just use it with the Kepler to make Electromite, which is pretty big. You can also dabble with these. Griffin is if you don't want to go through Machinex, or if you want to keep it for later to also just make Electromite. Orthros is basically just MST. You get the pop a back row, searchable off of Gate through Kepler, or just by drawing the Gate. And DD Evil and Go King Divine Ragnarok, whatever its name is, are just probably the best high and low scales you can get out of the DD engine, since they don't lock you. I wouldn't recommend running those though, so yeah. We're gonna lump Endymion and Mythical Beasts together. Servant is probably your best low scale you have in the deck. It's searchable off Spell Power Mastery as well, so you run 6 copies. Garuda is the same as Orthros, it just pops a back row for you, which is pretty nice. Also searchable off of Cerberus. Cerberus also gets to special summon itself for free by going through Jackal King, or you can use Jackal King to summon off of Servant, or you can summon Endymion off of Servant. Endymion's also a good high scale, since Zefrath only goes to scale 7. Very good engine, has good synergy with other engines here as well. Dragon Shrine engine, you basically want to send Darkworm to special summon a pen body for free to make an easy Electromite or Beyond the Pendulum before your pen summon. Also searches you the 0 scale, which is huge as well, since that can let you special summon out Kepler. That's pretty nice. And your alternative dump is the Destrudo, which can also go into Beyond the Pendulum, or you can use it to make a Synchro 7 like AFD. More on that later. And you can also use the Foolish Burial to dump the Lamia, so it's not completely dead and it can come up in other situations. Not always the best, since you need to have the DD engine as well, because it can't reborn itself as is without the Gate, but there is a lot of synergy between all these engines. The Pendulum Magicians, kind of nutty honestly. run a bunch of spells for it, which is good with the Endymion engine as well. Harmonizing can get you Oath Dragon to make a Baron very early. Celestial can turn off monster effects for the turn, gets you a search in the end phase, which could also be Kepler for follow-up. You have a high scale in Celestial and a low scale in Purple Poison, so you'd usually search Harmonizing plus your missing scale off of Pen Call, and then go into Baron to insulate your plays. Magician Souls is just a free special summon, great for going to Beyond the Pendulum. The best target to send is Gravekeeper Shaman, which you can then just simply reborn using Celine. It's basically just Dweller for monsters, and this also has good synergy with the Endymion and Mythical Beast engines, since you could just send those cards if you don't want to run the Shaman, if you think it's too bricky or it's just not good in the format. DPE Scythe, just a Scythe lock, also very nice. Bestials are a thing this meta, but you should be ending on at least a counter trap and probably like another negate like Baron or Appaloosa, so it's pretty consistent to get through. And this, I mean, it's just a turn skip, plus you have all the follow up off DPE, you get a free special off Dasher, free special off Denier, pretty powerful stuff. I haven't tested this personally. We'll probably come up more with Draco Slayers. Joker's just another good normal summon, since the only other normal is Kepler. It can search you the Revolution Dragon, which gets you dragons. Here's a few payoffs you could go for. You have Scales, you have Lesser Pendulum if you want to run a bigger Magician's Engine with Pensorg or something. You can access Darkworm off of it, or a Floodgate like Sloth. I think this comes up more with Draco Slayers though, and not in current iteration. Curtain Razor, it's just a free special if you want to go into Electromite at the beginning of your turn. Personally don't think it's worth it, conflicts with Dragon Shrine as well, but it is an option. Just going to show the Croco Dragon play real quick, since this is pretty relevant. This lets you search any monster in the game. All you need is Zefranu and Zefraxi with your Oracle field spell. This is pretty easy to access, it's only 2 cards, since the field spell will search you the missing piece of Zefranu or Zefraxi, and having Zephyrath and Scale gets you the other one as well. And then you just chainlink 1 the Croco Dragon for the draw effect, and then chainlink 2 the Oracle to stack any monster on top of your deck, and then you draw it. This can get you into your engine cards that you need, it can get you into stuff like Souls if you're running with the Shaman, that just gets you Shaman on board more or less. You can also run a bunch of degenerate payoffs, like you can search Maxi with this, you can search Necroworld Banshee or the Gravekeeper's Commandant to search field spells that way. If you're not using a normal summon, you can also use stuff like Rose Whip, Jinzo, Vanity's Fiend, End of Anubis, floodgates like that. Protos is also searchable. If you make an Exceed and link it off, you definitely have the requirements in Grave. Probably not worth it, but you have enough ways to get stuff into the graveyard if you really need to, and you can summon the Juggernaut off of Celine as well if you want. AFD is also really good, since you almost always have Oracle in rotation. It's pretty easy to make as well, having generic materials. You can get it off Destrudo as well if you want. Yeah, the 3 main field spells are Necro Valley, obviously, since you don't really care. It turns off your protection effect, but that's not really that relevant. It hurts a lot of the meta. Spellcaster Village is pretty goated, and Summon Breakers is pretty funny. It basically forces them to skip battle phase, or if they can't read, just skip their whole turn. Kind of funny. Probably not the best option to go for though, to be honest. Denglong is really nutty. Gets you so much advantage. You search a counter trap off of it, and if you link it off or synchro it off, you get to put Zefranu on board, which you can then pop with a counter trap to get follow up. You get to it through Lamia, or harmonizing summons out Perform Appel, 5 Rainbow Magician. The latter isn't as good in my opinion. I didn't like it while I was testing it personally, but it's definitely a viable option if you don't want to use the DDD package. The extra deck staples, that you pretty much should be running in like every case ever are Baguska as a backup plan and a good solid floodgate. Zeus is just too good to not run. Electromite, obviously you need this. This gets you anything in your deck more or less. If you make it before normal summoning, even after pen summoning, doesn't matter. You can just search out Kepler and get 2 more bodies or Denglong access or something. Beyond the Pendulum, also a very strong card. Doesn't play nice with Zephyr since it negates the scale modulation effect, but it does come up quite a bit, and it's very good to have and good at breaking boards. If you don't have Zephyr engine access, you can just use this anyways without the downside more or less. Or you can go into Electromite if it's before your pen summon to just search out Zephyr to scale it. IP into Unicorn, also very strong on your end board since it's very generic to make and you can virtually always end on it if you want to. Appaloosa, of course, it's a Pendulum deck, has great arrows, great negates. You make it after spending all your Electromite effects, and access code for lethal. Some other options to consider in the main deck: Chronograph, Astrograph, very good, help you make more link plays or have follow up in hand, just special out free bodies and stuff. The Ritual Beasts, Zephyrs, get you a bit more bodies back, gives a bit of utility, give you level 3s as well to work with if you want to. I think they're kind of mid. I'd run the Sorcerers though. In your extra deck, Black Rose Dragon, just board wipes. You can chain block it with your field spell as well, which is pretty huge since it can't get negated by things like Apo or Baron then. The FA Dawn Dragster, or whatever it's called, is a spell trap negate. It's a level 7, so you can make it pretty easily using Destrudo or stuff. I don't run it, I don't think it's that good. Baron is very good, especially off the Magician's engine, but your board does lose to Super Poly if you end on Baron Apo. Dweller also very strong, generic rank 4, very powerful, turns off a lot of decks, especially if you know what your opponent's on. Making this sometimes just wins you the game. Gallant Granite can search Zefrath since it's a rock, but you should probably run a rank 4 engine like, God, what did I see? I saw like Dolce and some guy was playing Magical Musketeer just to rank 4 turbo before pen summon. I don't know, it's an option, so I'm just putting it out there. Earth Charmer is pretty easy to make since Zefraxian, Zefranu or Earths, and your opponent probably has Maxi in their graveyard because it's Master Duel. Other than that, Dark is probably just better. You run a ton of Darks, your opponent runs a ton of Darks, pretty nutty, also gets you follow up if it dies, and I'll put Sleem back here again since it has so much utility, just special summoning the Souls target back, or just Souls, or something that you overlaid with, or something from your hand. You can also special out Cerberus to get another banish, pretty good. Here's some build examples. Of course, we're not running Auroradon because it's just not that good, even if most of the content you'll find on YouTube or Master Duel Meta do run Auroradon. Yeah, for the reasons mentioned before, it's just not that good. Yeah, you can pause this or just check on Master Duel Meta. I'll put my current build in the description as well. And your end board goals, in case you don't know what you're gunning for, it's you're going to want to go through the Zephyrath line. To access a counter trap, you'll either want to end on Zefranu on your end board with 9 pillars. This way you can pop it to search follow up. Make sure the counter trap is chainlink 2 though. Otherwise you'll miss timing on your search. Otherwise you'll just want to go for Zephyr Divine Strike. You only need a Zephyr card in your extra deck to have it be live, so you can link off your Zephyr cards. One thing to know about 9 pillars is you can actually scale Zefranu or something at the end of your turn, since it can also pop your Yangzings from your scale. Then what else you'll want in your end board is some kind of floodgate to prevent your opponent from playing, something like Necro Valley, Shaman, Dweller, Baguska, all very solid options. Just make sure they don't conflict with each other, like Baron plus Baguska. is not necessarily the best idea. You'll want like another way aside from your counter trap of protecting your floodgate. So IP is really good since it goes in unicorn for spot removal. This can protect your Baguska from link monsters trying to beat over it or something trying to crash into your shaman. Baron just gives you another free negate. That's pretty nice. That's always good. And then you can also make an Apo just for more negates. Try not to end on Apo and Baron, since you do just get completely destroyed by Super Poly, which is pretty relevant with Tier and Branded being so big in the meta, and Super Poly being a 3 in Master Duel. And Zephyr War is a good alternative search to a second counter trap with Apo, since you can protect it from being destroyed by battle after it uses a negate. Here, something you might want to end on is Necro Valley, Apo, double counter trap. Baguska, you need a Yangzing on field for it to be live. This also gives you follow up. Or if you don't have field spell access, you can just make a Dweller or something, then Apo IP. The IP can use the spent Dweller, and we have a Zefra and Scale for Zephyr War to pop something with, and then we have the Divine Strike as a counter trap. Yeah, hope you guys learned something. If I forgot something, I'll pin a comment in the description. Thanks for watching.